Thank you for staying with me on TMI Tuesday. We'll get into the climax after the show, where we will be exploring the topic, which is on the Edo local government polls, tasked before ATSEC. And a few days back, the inauguration of the body, the 7-member ATSEC, into office was witnessed, and this was done by the governor. And since then, there has been meetings upon meetings, and just yesterday, ATSEC had meeting with political party members, representatives, in order to forge ahead on the proposed date for the election for the local government polls. And it's expected, the timetable has been released, and it's expected that all political parties are hitting the ground running, ensuring that they feed in candidates. And it's expected from March 30th to April 6th that the candidates must have emerged, from the primaries of political parties. And by 12th April, campaign kicks off. And of course, on the D-Day, April 19, election day proper, is witnessed. And how convenient is this timetable? That's the big question we need to really analyze today, which is the crux of our discussion. And I'm your host, Philip Omo-Gupo, and speaking with me on this, starting from my immediate left, I have a human rights activist, Solomon Idiogbe. Thanks for joining me, Solomon.
Good morning, and viewers at home, very good morning this morning.
And next to him, I have an articulate young man. He is a political economist, Ibrahim Momo. Thanks for joining me, Ibrahim.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, and distinguished viewers.
Okay, the ATSEC under the headship of Justice James Oyomere, really is hitting the ground running, and it's expected that issues concerning the local government polls will be tackled immediately as per resting this whole impression about the local government polls being conducted or not. And yesterday, the retired justice did say that nobody should come to him to bribe him, that he no longer buys his suits anymore. His suits have been bought by the children, and he lives a very low profile, so he wouldn't want anyone to waste time bribing him, because that's not possible. Now, looking at the inauguration that took place, and of course the constituted ATSEC, what do you make of the headship, James Oyomere?
Sincerely, looking at the person, Oyomere, one would want to believe that as somebody who has read and has climbed to that ladder in judicial space, would want to protect equity and fairness. But unfortunately, that's not the same thing in politics. Politicians are a very difficult people to mingle with. They are like the devil, with all due respect, that if you are not careful dining with the devil, some will say take a long spoon, and your spoon could be contaminated. We have seen areas where, or situations where very respected persons later become vulnerable to them because of certain tangling. So for me, we just hope that the comments made by Oyomere comes to stand. But for us having known how politics play in Nigeria, especially in those states, I'm taking those comments with a pinch of salt, because first, and very firstly, it's unheard of that you want to make politicians or political parties go into an election less than 20 days, into political calendar. And so the rush into amending the dates and the space is first to question. And my personal opinion, when I saw Justice Oyomere being placed as chairman of the committee, I just said, I hope they don't soil this man's reputation, because he actually does not know where he's going. He may decide not to collect money. It's a majority thing. You are 7, and if 5 out of 7, gets to say a thing, majority will, because as a judicial person, he will always want to abide by the decision of the majority, but the buck stops on his table. As at yesterday from the Bush Radio, we gathered that it was not all well with the meeting, because a lot of political parties that were in attendance disagree with the with the calendar, that you needed to first meet with the political parties, hear them out before drawing your political calendar, not the other way around. You have drawn the calendar, fixed a date, and you are not calling us to come and tailor us in. You are supposed to meet with us, ask us our convenience, then tailor in our input to build the calendar. And so that, if you understand now, there's already trouble. So for me, I think that if he wants to keep his name, he must check very carefully. You see our brother, retired Inspector General of Police, when he was put as a chairman of a committee, he got to a point the man said, I cannot cope. By my pedigree and my reputation, I choose to resign. And he walked away. I'm not asking him to walk away now, but I'm asking him to be very careful, because politicians are the most difficult set of persons. They speak one thing in the morning and they do another thing in the evening. And for elections like this, it is almost going to be impossible for it not to, for rigging not to take place. And for persons like him, he may be a very difficult person to break through. I do not say, and I'm not saying he is, but he might be a very difficult person to break through, and then there might be troubles.
Okay, let's get your thoughts along this line, Ibrahim. And what are your concerns over the party in power in the state?
Well, I do not have concerns about the party in power in the state with regards to the incoming local government or the proposed local government elections. But I have a couple of issues with the shenanigans that are going on regarding the plan for local government election. I have said on this forum and said several others that the challenges we have in this country are mostly because of the deliberate acts of emasculating our local government administration in the country. So, with that as a background, I am very happy that finally the current administration is waking up to the reality that it can't do it alone. It's not possible. You cannot act with the onerous task before you as a state government and then take upon yourself the very difficult assignments that ought to be carried out by the 18 local government chairmen, councillors, and councillors, our administration generally, across the state. I already had that position, so I'm happy that the government is waking up to the reality. But the challenge is in amending the ETSEC Act and reducing the time frame. And then for a new team, I knew the previous chairman of ETSEC. He was my lecturer at the University of Benin, Professor Stanley Eke Obato. If he was someone that was returned, he was already on the job. He understands the terrain. And then you bring a tight schedule. Perhaps this. Cool. Even for you to 20 days, 30 days is not enough for a new team to understudy, to plan, and to put the machinery, the structure in place to ensure that you have a successful. 30 days is not enough, even to sensitize the voters. So many things that are wrong with it. And then, ironically, yes, okay, if you're going to have a 30 days, you settle down, understand the system, create the necessary awareness, and then you now fix a timetable after due diligence. You just inaugurate today, the following day you are a timetable. And then, like what my brother Solomon already mentioned, the procedure for coming out with a date for election is by consultation, not by executive fiat. If I know you are coming with a predetermined agenda, and then if I were not to speak to the point you are trying to make, is initially the ruling party, the world is aware that there is no love lost between the ruling party and the government of the state. The PDP on one side, and then the government, governor particularly and the deputy governor on the other side. There's no love lost between them. So it begs the question, are we programmed to fail? Is this local government election programmed to fail? What is the agenda? What is the idea behind, having this kind of very funny timetable released? You are meeting political parties. Because in Nigeria today, you don't have the issue of independent candidacy. It has to be run through political parties. Political parties have to have a time for setting forms. These are conditions that they have to set, not the ETSEC setting for them. These are guidelines, timetable for sales of forms, and then submission, and then screening of the prospective the aspirants, and then the primaries to select the candidates, and then the period of campaigns. The people are going to be shortchanged if we stick with this timetable, because who are they going to vote for? People they don't know. People are not even sold their agenda, their manifesto to the populace. Who are they going to vote for? At the end of the day, when you garbage in, like we say in the computer lingo, they definitely go to garbage out. What the outcome of a process that is flawed is going to be flawed itself. That's where I stand.
Okay, looking at the tenure for the local government council chairman that ended in March last year, was it not expected that at least political parties should be ready at any time as soldiers, to ensure that any time the announcement is made, they are able to quickly dive at it and take actions? So don't you think political parties are supposed to be ready, and this excuse of not having enough time shouldn't count? Solomon?
You cannot be ready. Because politicians, as you know them, are not stable people. Today you see cross-carpeting from party A to party B, party Z to party Y.
You can't draw a general carpet on that.
It's a general.
You can only say some politicians, because you can't generalize.
It's a general thing. Tell me today who is today a member of APC that had at one point not be a member of either a PDP or a QPP.
It will surprise you that there are a lot.
The president, for example.
Only Buhari. And I can tell you that same Buhari was a member of whether CNPP,
and
then so what are we not saying? So it became, in quote, a mega party.
Okay, but
and then that brought the APC.
But the River State governor is also one of them.
It's only a negligible few.
Okay.
But having said that, knowing this as a common or a normal ground for politicians, you cannot say that they are ready. Two, this calendar or promise of, because if this election was just like 30 days after the expiration of the tenure of the local government, and this is happening, we say, well, they should have been ready, they should have known.
They should have known.
But this is not the case. 1 year after, so everybody have gone sleeping like, we are not sure. Philip, you can't do campaigns for 1 year, no matter how ready you are. You can't run campaigns for 1 year for a local government.
You mean 1 month?
1 year.
Oh. No, if you're going to start campaigning,
last year. You would have been able to. You can't sustain it. It's not possible that you have sustained your campaign since March last year till this year. You want to kill yourself by yourself? So that's the situation. But now, we don't even, by their calendar, it's about 15 days. And that's unethical. That's unheard of. And that's part of the problem that makes us feel that we do not have a formidable and a reasonable, responsible House of Assembly.
Okay, but instead of doing all this, don't you think we should focus on how to make it possible?
No, you see, let's call a spade and not a farm tool. My brother, you cannot obviously use what you use spoon, use a fork for use in place of spoon, vice versa. Because the other one has a filter and the other one has, like a ball or a gum. So it doesn't fit. Asking whether they should have been ready. How would they have been ready when? Now, he made mention of something. Professor Roberto would have been ready, preparing, thinking he will still be returned. Now, Roberto is not there. So if Roberto, for instance, was linked, has his hope not been shattered and short-lived? So, point I'm making here is that preparations towards this local government election is, maybe I'm trying to be careful, in the choice of words, so that it doesn't look like I'm being insulting or too direct. But I think that the government of Edo State has something down their sleeve. Well, let me also remind you that even PDP as we speak, I can say authoritatively that PDP as we speak are also in a state of confusion over their arrangement. Because you know why? I have a friend who wanted to go purchase form for local government elections. And as I just was telling me, well, not only one friend, but I say they print for a political party. I never know because we know they hear anything. And that's to tell you that even they themselves have their internal problem, and that's not.
But you can't generalize with just the opinion of one person, and you can't even speak for the party.
No, I'm not speaking for
so you already lost credibility in that direction to do that.
I'm not speaking for the party. I'm telling you that there's already like a pragmatic front before all of them. Like,
you mean there seems to be?
There's already. Because you know why? If you are a carry member of a political party, by the constitution of I have a copy of both APC and PDP constitution. I can tell you authoritatively that as a carry member and as a financial member, you have a right to contest any position insofar as you are able to meet the criteria. Now, they are saying that they are unable to even know how the funds are going. I'm just saying, even by, they say by the matter of 1 or 2, a word is established. That's the supposed ruling party. It's so because there is this body language that does not seem to be right between the political structure of the PDP and the government of Edo State in the person of the governor and his deputy. And so, if you recall, the issue of integration, merger, acceptance, and it landed them in court and there was a verdict. That's bad blood is still running in this whole thing, and it may cost them a lot. So, let alone political parties that had to change perhaps their party chairman at the state, or that is just preparing for their convention at the national. They have a lot in their hands, and now you are telling them to face local government elections without consulting them. They have drawn the timetable. So it is not for us. It is not a convenient time. Okay. It should have been a situation where, for instance, if because I'm talking that like just trying to have pity on Oyomiri, you came in. You have not met with the political actors. You have not, because in this you were supposed to have had meetings with political parties, civil society groups, all the stakeholders in the polity. Media, because media has a lot to do with this election. Yeah. And then have their voters education. Have their feel about, for example, I do not think that he has done an election matter like this before. Try to understand and feel the pulse of the people so that you cannot plan with because there will be brilliant questions, there will be intelligence contributions, and then you marry all of them together and then work with it or run with it. But coming like this with a timetable, it means it's predetermined, it's pre-arranged, and then there are some persons that the government wants to put into power or put in place as their local government. But
don't you think there's a very huge factor that we are leaving behind? Because when the retired Justice James Oyomiri said it yesterday concerning those in the riverine areas, and that we are in the raining season, and if you make attempt to shift the polls, it could hamper or disenfranchise those in the riverine area, because the table level of water is increasing as the day goes. So don't you think that's a factor that also is playing a big role in the timetable release just now? Ibrahim.
The truth is, when we want to do something, we find a reason. If you don't want to do something, you find an excuse. If you don't want to do things the proper way, you will find an excuse. It's always available. There are 1,001 excuses to give.
Are you saying it's not tenable?
What you do is that the rainy season, we are well into the rainy season. So doing it in the middle of April, or toward the end of April, or the middle of May, toward the end of May, at the beginning of May, there's no difference, because all those time frames are captured within the rainy season. You are only captured within the rainy season. I think that I pity, with all due respect, I pity Justice James Oyomiri, retired justice. I pity him because apparently he's an idealist. He thinks it's possible, and he's doing his best to make it happen.
Unfortunately.
But the reality of our politics, the deleterious nature of our political system and practice, our political tradition as a country, does not give me much hope that the idealistic aspirations in fixing such a tight program for himself is going to be able to achieve them. And the earlier we wake up to the realistic facts that in certain is programming himself to fail, with all due respect to him, be better. The area he realizes that. Now you're talking about one of the reasons, one of the excuses, with all due respect, is that it's rainy season and then those in the river.
Have we not done elections in this country in May, in June, in August?
Okay. You still have
this thing. The question I would like to ask retired Justice James Oyomire is, what's the difference between April 19th and May 1st in terms of the rainy season? Have you seen the weather forecast for the next 2 months? And he has come to the conclusion that, even considering that one is not reliable, that April 19th is the day are going to have the least rainfall in that period. I think it needs to be clear in his heart that the political parties really, I don't know, well, do we really have political parties? That's a whole ball, because ordinarily they should be in court of this particular issue, whether it is legal to have such, for the HCF to even put out a timetable without even consulting all the critical stakeholders. He has mentioned some of them, the political party, the civil society, the media, even the electorates, for crying out loud. And then even the state government, for example, you get feedback. INEC does that regularly. Even the voter register is going to use. Does he even have access to it as of today? You have to have a clean copy of that voter register, because one phase just ended last week Tuesday. So, okay, have you met with INEC? Okay, what are the registered voters? Because you're going to work with registered voters. There's so much he has to grapple with, and then for him to now self-impose like a program failure, a timetable that is programmed to fail. I don't
Let's analyze the basic challenge that could be facing ETSIAC in this whole rapid timetable. Solomon.
For me, I think that ETSIAC has a lot to meet up with.
Correct.
First, sensitization, so that they don't have what is usually referred to as voters apathy. Then 2, collaborations, because they need to have met with security agencies in the states to know where the pitfalls are, because in security agency mapping, there are places they mark as black spots.
Correct.
They needed to know those things. And then when you talk about media, then they're supposed to have also met with the media practitioners to know area of coverage, to what extent can they cover.
Who is strong, who's strong in what area?
In what area, and what it will cost, unless they're not making plans for media coverage. Because media coverage is not also cheap. The media practitioners are also in business. You are expecting that TV to just come and cover your program for free? How would they pay their staff? Then you need the civil society to help you do sensitization, discuss the issues with you realistically, the way it is.
And so you think all of this can't happen under a month?
15 days? How? And then you come to the reality of printing ballot papers.
No, yes, that's quite key.
Securing ballot papers. Because printing is one thing, securing is another thing. Then distribution is another thing.
Recruiting of adult staff.
Adult staff recruitment is another. Pure sensitization and having a realistic election is another. Like he said, my brother said, it's like it's a program to fail agenda. And if it's not programmed to fail, I think that the Beninese will say, simply put, if somebody sends you a message as a slave, you should be wise enough to act like a child of the family.
Okay, but I think we shouldn't be presumptive anyway, because is it not possible that the committee is being proactive, and maybe before now there's been a plan, to quickly carry this challenge out?
If you just said that, it means that the Justice Oyomire had this plan since last year, knowing that he would be chairman of ETSIAC, which means you already have a planned calendar, you already have a planned list of those to bring in. If I'm going to go by what you have said, let me tell you, there is no local government that has less than 10 wards.
No, some have 12.
12, yes. I said, no, I just, none has less than 10 wards. And certain times, the distance between Ward 1 and Ward 10, my brother. So you can't now say that you are expecting the campaigners, as it were the candidates, that will now find, because they've never met. Parties have not done their primaries. Now, like I told you, I was aware that as I tested the form, I was saying he was jostling to get from, he couldn't get from his political party. And you know that if he sees that he's being choked out of his political party, he will decamp to another party to go get from. And you know, you need to make room for all of this. You say, why would that happen? It happened in the case of the governor. He was almost strangled out of his political party and immediately jumped ship into the current party that he belongs. So it can happen also in the local government because it's a contestation. There's actually no difference between a state election and a local government election because the top tier government is supposed to be the government that's close to the people and supposed to be by the people and it's really supposed to be the government for the people.
Okay.
And so, like my brother has said, masculating them to want to strangle everybody so that you can put your people there is a problem that this ESEC needs to deal with. Otherwise, you'll be seeing them as a really biased umpire, already planning or have planned to fail or planning to ensure that they do the
and we don't need to be presumptive in that direction. But let's look at the fear that some have that maybe some political parties may pull out of this election as a result of the rapid timetable. Do you have that fear also, Ibrahim?
Well, I think it's a realistic fear because I'm not a political party person. So I think I'm not an elected state or local government.
But you're a political scientist.
Yeah, that's because I am partisan. I'm partisan. I'm a party member, so I'm partisan. But the point I'm making is this: that look for the case of ETSEC. I'll go to political party to ask. Let's look at ETSEC and its challenges. Now there are 18 local governments in Edo State. There are 102 wards in Edo State. In each of these wards, you can, in the ward I'm in Ward 10 in a local government area of Edo State. That's where I'm a registered voter. In Ward 10, currently we have 75 units in one ward, 75 units. And in each of these units, you have like 2 or 3 voting points. The newly past chairman of a local government and I used to vote in the same unit. In that unit, that's Yoba College. In that unit, you have at least 4 voting points. In each of those units, 4, 5, and 6. So the reality is there. The logistic of, getting even the adult staff. You have the SPO, you have the police officers, that's the police officer, and then the assistant police officer, and then security agencies, and then the logistics of moving voting material. These materials are not printed yet too. Except maybe they have done them. They are trying to.
That's what I said. Unless that Justice Yemi has been in the know and has been planning it.
On the place of INEC. Now it has to sensitize voters. You just throw out information, and let me commend ITV and the sister media outfits, for putting bringing the searchlight on some of these activities. So people are getting to know that there's going to be an election. It's proposed to be a proposal to hold an election on the 19th of April. Well, you don't even have candidates as of today, but you have planned the election. So it comes up to ITV and other sister agencies for the good work you guys are doing. Even though INEC has not come to, I've not heard that INEC has said to the media that So on the place of INEC, it has a huge thank you very much. A huge logistic challenge to deal with in terms of personnel and materials. And then you go to the issue of political parties. Political parties too have to do this. At the worst case scenario, you have consensus. But consensus is for 102 wards, not one, not 18 local governments. You have chairman, you're going to have councillors, councillorship candidates, and then chairmanship candidates in every of the 18 political parties. And then you are seeing that already, elections are to hold next year. For the National Assembly, state assemblies. And then they have been doing campaigns in those mobilization of voters,
sensitization.
Among the prospective aspirants are doing all this. Now, some of them, ordinarily, if they knew an election, maybe there's going to be a local government election, they would have, well, relaxed. I prefer to be a local government chairman than, but because of the despondence, since last year, and I think that I ask myself, why are state government, not only Edo, and in at least 24 states in this country, there are no elected local government officials. There are 36 states in Nigeria. In 2/3 of those states, there are no elected local government officials in this country. Now, why are governors so
rigid?
So, why are they emasculating? Why are they killing the local government administration? This question I've always asked myself. Is it that they don't understand that a functional local government system helps them? Now, what political parties are saying clearly is that they are not, if you want to conduct, to bring out the timetable, to sell forms, to sell forms, to do the screening, and then the primaries, it will take them more than 15 days.
Okay. Okay, let's look at the modalities. The governor did say that he has benefited from a free and fair democratic process, and so he would want others to benefit. And we look at the political parties that are being involved. Now, what do you think should be the modalities, by ETSEC, in bringing about a free, fair, credible polls, Solomon?
Is to first of all allow the political parties have their candidates conveniently, not strangling
Give enough time.
Not strangling them, because by this calendar you are strangling them. You are asking them, it's either by hook or by a crook. They must get candidates. And then some of the political parties are going to be like cab. Some people are just going to book them just to drive through the process, and they don't know them. And so when they start having problems, it will be all credit or disadvantage or discredit will still go to ETSEC. Then you're asking modalities. Modalities is part of the issues that we have mentioned. They were supposed to ensure that there's a level playground for everybody. And for you to have a level playground for everybody, it means that you have considered the pains and gains as well of each of the political parties and the persons that are going to be involved. For instance, you're going to need security agencies. Do you know the manpower of the police force in Edo State as at today? And you are planning an election for them that are going to provide security for. Do you know? ITV just celebrated 25 years. Do you know their manpower, their strength? Because in each of the local government, they are going to ensure that they have a reporter who is going to cover so that they can have, and they can't, because it's corporate social responsibility, you are expecting them to cover for you free. It cannot happen. You understand? So you have not looked at all of this. These are part of the things when you say modalities.
Okay.
When you say modalities, you're also talking about what are the factors. And it's all involved funding. Accepting that they are telling us that they have so much funds. But let me tell you, there are so many things that funds cannot buy. How are you going to ensure that we get credible candidates? Because it's one thing to do an election. It's another to have credible candidates and responsible candidates to emerge. Because you have a RIFA as a local government, with all due respect to the political parties, as a local government chairman, you're obviously going to meet with so many irregularities. And so these are part of the things that the ETSEC needed to study and understand. So if you ask me again and again, I think that their readiness is e-planned.
Okay.
And for me, I think that people are not carried along. We are not carried along. There's huge gap between the planning for the people and the people that have been planned for.
Okay.
And I think, for me, I'll say this without fears, that the government is doing a deliberate move to ensure that they select their choice.
Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. Okay. Now let's look at this aspect where a lot of people are saying that, well, there is this principle or this 18/18 victory, in local government elections. But the big question I want to ask here is to Ibrahim, is maybe you also react to that, Solomon, is it strange to democracy, or is it impossible to democratic tenets to deliver on 18/18 victory in a state, in local government polls?
No, it's not. There's nothing absolutely wrong for a party that is popular, a party that has the backing of the people, that has candidates that are loved by the people, the best, who bring out the very best. One of my uncle, Engineer Salu Ahmedi Bobda, the new River Basin chairman, was saying to me that if we have our best brains, if we want this country to progress, he said to me that if we want this country to progress, what we should have is that our best brains in the local government chairman. There are 774 local governments in Nigeria. If our best brains are the ones in the local governments, this country will change. He was saying that, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So, you know, to speak to the point, really, it's not. I'm responding. If I talk about this election, I feel that the James Oyomide led ETSEC is putting himself in a lot of trouble. You know, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I'm despondent with all due respect.
All right. I think we need your response before we go to the next topic, which is quite germane.
You know, for me, the whole thing, it's laughable for us. Because you know, this country, so far so good, have been able to gag a lot of people that you can no longer speak truth to power. We are just attempting to, because there's to an extent you also speak here now, they'll slam you with charges. And so we are careful not to put you in problems or troubles. So we're also careful how we say. But in all sincerity, I do not think that we are heading rightly towards the right direction. For me, if you ask me again, the arrangements to do this local government election is not well planned, but in terms of, I may not know the characters per se.
All right.
Apart from the pedigree of Justice Oyomere, having walked to that, climbed to that ladder, having retired, and now supposed to, like he said that he no longer buys his suits, which means he trained himself, he has trained his children well. But this country is such a country that can mess you up at any time. I tell you, look at the likes of Farouk, who were in mad peace.
Farouk Lawan.
Yes, at the house. What happened to him? He became a $2 gate.
Mr. Integrity. He called
Thank you.
You checked Sani, Kaduna Senator. What happened to Sani? You know, and just even look at the likes of Saraki.
Maurice Iwu.
Yes, Maurice Iwu. Look at the likes of Dino Melaye, who became very voiceful and forceful. What happened to him? He was becoming a trouble in the house. And today his case.
Okay, thank you.
Look at even Professor Atari Jaga, who conducted election. He's not coming out to tell you that, look, there is more to it. We are all sitting. He said that we are all sitting on a keg of gunpowder. So,
thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Solomon Idugbe. Big thanks to you, Ibrahim, for taking out time to be part of this. Well, we're going to be looking at the next topic, which is on the issues that have been happening ahead, the 2023 polls. Just during the weekend, the APC had its convention, and minds are going to this direction that, well, conventions have been had, and what's the next? Who's going to be the successor of President Muhammadu Buhari, and what are the yardsticks or the measures that will be taken, you know, to arrive at a point where we will say, yes, this is who we want, you know, as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, next president, and what political parties should be driving at, what even the electorate should be driving at. And Solomon Idugbe, you are a civil society activist and human rights activist at that. What do you think should be the qualities that Nigerians should be looking for in the next president?
We need Nigerian today needs a proactive, not a reactive president, intelligent, not a docile president, focused, not a disfocused one,
strong, not a weak.
Articulate, not then strong, like I said, not a weak president, a president whose book, whose table,
all box stops.
All box stops. A president that understands the yearning and aspiration of his people, a president that is consultative,
okay.
A president that is a loving father, or if you like,
he's talking utopian.
of his his or her people. Because we do not know if the next president will be a female, so let me not just put it like a masculine thing.
Okay.
But Nigerians are very hopeful and looking very seriously forward, because it has never been this bad in recent times. With all due respect to Major General Abijaya Muhammadu Buhari, retired, currently President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Of course, if you ask me, he's doing his best within his best. But of course, Nigerians believe that his best is not best enough for Nigeria. And hence, they're also looking forward to a better Nigeria. Being piloted by somebody much more stronger and more articulate. So for me, one is not sure where the table will turn, whether it's still going to be the ruling political party in the next election or the other political party in the next dispensation.
Okay.
For us, like you have asked, Nigerians, if you ask me, like, I'm one of those Nigerians looking forward to a better Nigeria, looking forward to a better president that we have to.
Okay, we have this consensus arrangement in the electoral law, concerning bringing about candidates in political parties. And the big one here that played out in the APC National Convention, where Adamu Abdullahi emerged, was by consensus. And some are afraid that maybe the best that Nigeria hasn't seen may not emerge if consensus arrangement is deployed. Do you think that way?
Yeah, I think so too. And I also understand that political parties are prioritizing consensus over and above direct or indirect primaries because of the friction or the fractures that may occur. Friction that are evident within political parties, particularly the major ones, and the fractures that will occur if you allow for direct or indirect primaries. So they now choose a kind of consensus building arrangement whereby everybody gets to chip in something. Okay, you bring this, you bring that, you bring this, you bring that. But what it does is that it does not give the people the best, the chance at choosing the best, or in the actual sense the best. It only helps to protect the political party from self-implosion. That's all consensus, with all due respect, actually does. Because if you look at the current national chairman of the PDP, Iyoche Ayu, and the current national chairman of the APC, Abdullahi Adamu, they are both facing charges before the EFCC. The EFCC is currently prosecuting them in court. Both national chairmen of the two major political parties. They're both, so, with all due respect, I don't know if I should say we have criminals or accused persons.
No. You accused persons, yes. These are allegations, and is the court that comes in.
I think accused persons.
Of course, I know that.
Accused persons.
I just wanted to reiterate that and to affirm it.
Yes, that are currently heading our two major political parties in Nigeria today. That's a challenge. So, consensus has value within the political parties, for the political parties. For example, a lot of people, not a few, have predicted that the convention was going to be the end of the APC. No, it was not the end. In fact, what is more sinister, what is more insidious, is that oftentimes it is one individual who now produces one person, who now holds one position. One individual. In the case of the PDP, it was Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom, because the position of national chairman was zoned to the North Central. And he was the only North Central governor from the PDP. So he produced the governor. He produced the national chairman. In the case of the APC, the information at our disposal suggests that it was Mr. President who stood his ground, that this is the who I want. And eventually, every other national chairmanship candidate were
whipped in.
Were they forced to, or they were convinced to step down for the
they agreed.
Yes, they were convinced to. Let us couch it in political lingo. They were convinced to step down for the president's choice of candidate for national chairmanship. And then what we had there is that, would I call it a charade?
Okay, well, I think as we call it a wrap, let's go this way. In 2 minutes, Solomon Yogbe, and also extending that 2 minutes to you, Ibrahim. What do you see concerning the hope that Nigerians have or should have in respect of the next coming election as regards what is happening now as a build-up?
Brother, the hope for having a credible presidential candidates from the two major political parties, credible presidential aspirants,
candidates
is very lean. Like Ibrahim, my brother, actually mentioned, the Benin says that but
we're not restricted to just two political parties. We have other parties.
Of course, some are political associations. Even the two political parties are associations that is being manipulated. Let me just be direct so that I don't waste time. The parable I made, or the statement I made, is that if the river starts getting dirty from the top, then you actually cannot get anywhere to fetch from. Because you can't go to the bottom of the river to go fetch. You must fetch from the top. And so, and then, who begets who? Birds of a feather. That's what we're having in the political arrangement. And so, it is really going to be very difficult, you know, to have, because most of these political associations you see parading themselves as political parties are just an appendage of one of the either mega political parties. They are the ones who register them, they are the ones sustaining them just to make noise and get some political parties,
from your own perspective.
No, it's obvious. Some political parties will have presidential candidates and then they will be supporting the mega political party.
Okay, as you round off, on that point.
For me, I think that Nigerians need to do a lot. The media, the civil society, the political actors in Nigeria need to wake up and ensure that we engage these people because they don't mean well for this country. I can say that authoritatively. You can say that the reason why Mr. President was asking for a consensus candidacy to be included in the Electoral Act was because he had an agenda.
But you can't say that they don't mean well. You can't say that they don't mean well. You can't say that there's an agenda. You can't verify that. Even if you want to verify that, you must verify that with
Philip, let me say this.
A right thinking and ideology.
I have a right to your own opinion. I have a right to my one. I'm proving it. The Benin say as anything no day or no where now as a nothing as on Bomo. If the witches were said to have had their meeting last night, and early this morning a child is said to be dead, it's obvious that the meeting of the witchcraft last night was responsible or is responsible for the death of this child.
Okay, thank you. You've articulated the point.
Mr. President,
you've articulated the point
for consensus, and by the morning of the wake of the amendment and his convention, he's bringing that the government had to travel out of this country to meet with Mr. President to agree. And if you read Mr. President's, listen to Mr. President's speech, he said he wants to thank the governor for listening to him.
Okay, thank you. You've made a point.
The party is built only around Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sign the Electoral Act until
Thank you. Let's have your point on this in 2 minutes.
Well, with all due respect, I think that the most critical stakeholder in the political process are docile. That's why we have what we are having today. You know, people think that, I heard a lot of people say that it is not the votes that count, it's what matters is who counts the votes. I've also heard that the political parties are the ones who are making people not to come out to vote. Because as much as we're having increased number of registered voters, we're having reducing number of voters. The more the voting population is increasing, the lesser the number of people who are voting in elections. Since 2003, till date, and net record is available. The public knowledge. I've gone through that.
Sorry, let me quickly tell you why.
No.
You've established your point. You've taken your time.
People are registering because they are using voters card to do other things, not because they want to go.
Please, Ibrahim, I think I give you extra 20 seconds for that.
Okay. Well, the point therefore is that it is not the political parties or the electoral umpire or even the politician, the candidate that are the most important or critical stakeholders. The critical stakeholders is me and you, the electorate. Now, the reason why Nigeria is the way it is because the electorates don't know how valuable they are. I have always told people that if your vote was not important, nobody will give you money for you to vote for them. That's to tell you, this is an indication of how important your vote is. My message, my belief, my hope is that our people realize that we can keep on complaining from one election to another election. The only thing we can do that will make a change is that a real change, not the APC or the PDP change, transformation or whatever, the real change is that every of our, currently INEC is doing the process of registering new voters. How many of our people who are so vocal on social media are even registered to vote? How many of our people who have registered to vote are actually voting on election day? Particularly those of us in the enlightened South.
Yes.
How many of us who are registered to vote? How many of us who are even registered to vote are coming out to vote? And then those of them who are even coming out to vote, how is it that your choice of who to vote for is based on the peanuts, 2,000 or 5,000? We ask your vote. Nigeria, a vote in Nigeria. The minimum value of a vote in Nigeria is 1,440,000. I said this in February. I did this calculation. The man who is going for election, who wants to be elected, he's going for a 4-year term of 48 months. And the minimum wage in Nigeria is 30,000 naira. Now, if you times 30,000 naira a month times 4 years, that is 12,360 times 4 years is 1,400,000. So everybody wants to, don't sell your votes. Come out and vote and don't sell your vote. But if you are going to sell your vote,
that's huge.
Your vote, that's the minimum value. And it is scientific. The minimum wage in Nigeria is 30,000 naira. 48 months is 1,440,000.
That's fantastic.
If they want to bribe you to vote for them,
Let them give you.
If they don't give you and you collect 5,000 naira and you vote, and then somebody was saying on a panel I was, a panel to educate voters, they were telling me that collect the money and vote your conscience. I said, after selling your conscience, which conscience are you talking about here? Which are you going to have vote?
The conscience is gone.
It's gone. And you cheated yourself by voting for 5,000 or 10,000 or 2,000 sometimes. As you have 500 or 1,000
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim.
My bottom line is that our people should come out and register.
And those are
and then, once we are registered, make sure on election day, keep every other thing aside. If our people come out to vote, the politicians will sit up.
Thank you very much.
If they don't have a choice to vote, don't allow your vote, somebody use your vote. Don't print it between two political parties.
Thank you so much, Big thanks.
Big thanks. Cast your vote and show you vote.
Big thanks. I think what I also gained from this discussion is it's not the vote. It's not the vote that counts, but who counts the vote. And then the aspect you also made mention of calculating the value of a voter, voting for a candidate. That's quite huge. Big thanks, Solomon Idiogbe. And we just want to let you know that opinions shared on this platform are opinions of the makers and not that of independent television. It's still This Morning on ITV. We take a short break.